Hello, this is Martin Coleman, and today we're going to be talking about online applications. So, what are online applications? Well, I think it's something that probably most of you guys have used if you've got your own kids or you've dealt with kids in the internet that you have probably played with, used, learned from, gotten disgusted at, really enjoyed an online application. And most of these that we're going to be talking about today are educational websites for kids. And some of them may be a little more educational than others, some may be a little more commercial, but in general, these applications reinforce what kids are learning in the elementary schools and give them a chance to practice and play and see some good modeling on how to solve problems and how to deal with these things. So the real trick is that you take these lessons that we've been doing in the classroom and that kids normally wouldn't want to go home and sit there at the kitchen table and do over and over again on a piece of paper, but they'll spend hours because they're games. And games are just great ways for kids to get in and learn and practice and get involved with the other students in the class. So let's look at some examples. The first one, this one actually I'm going to show is for teachers. And why should the kids have all the fun? If you haven't been to this before, the forteachers.org, the forteachers.org site has a ton of things that you can use. If you look on the side here, you'll see Trackstar and assignments and things to send out notes in Spanish and a teacher tackle box. I really suggest you go and check this out. It's a great place, a lot of fun for the teacher, and some all free things that you can use in your classroom. The other one is off of this site called Academic Skill Builders. And this is exactly what we're talking about, that teachers can send their kids here to find lessons that deal with math, that deal with reading, that have a lot of the stuff that we're really excited about, maybe as a teacher, but they're not so much as kids. And if you look in here, you'll see multiplayer games, single player games, things that have to do with division, addition, subtraction, fractions, languages, all kinds of things. And if you look at the bottom, you can see some success stories of how teachers have used these tools in their classroom and maybe give you some good ideas on how you might implement them in your own classroom. Another big one is the PBS site. And I don't know, I grew up watching PBS as a kid, mostly because it was one of my 3 channels I had growing up with an antenna instead of cable or satellite. But the PBS site is another great site for having games that teach kids, but then trick them into, it's fun stuff. And this one's gets some different things that we didn't have in the others. That you've got coloring, you've got different games, they got some videos, they hit music. So much of what we have today is so math, science, reading kind of based that some of the arts get left out. And I think that's a good part of growing up as a kid, is that you get to explore that kind of world there. So, check out some of these options that maybe, doesn't always fit exactly what you're doing as for the mathematics net, but maybe it fits in some other skills that you want to do, whether you're learning your colors, you're working on staying in lines and skills for motor, or you're thinking creatively, well, what color could a cat be? Why does a tree have to be green? Couldn't it be, hot pink with purple stripes or something like that? It gives you some fun things to play with. The last one I'm going to show you is probably more of a commercial site, and that's the Disney site. I'm guessing most of your kids have been there and played some of these. They may not have thought about it, and they kind of hit pretty much all the elementary school kids. So that's kind of why I'm bringing Disney in here. That they do a nice job of showing things for some of the older kids that maybe the others are a little too elementary, or maybe they just want something else and fun. Not all of these are going to work perfect for what you want to do in your class, but there are some good ones on here, and it does hit a lot of those learning things that we're trying to figure out. If you haven't ever checked out the Penguins, go check out the Penguins. They're some of my favorites, especially with the space stuff. It's awesome. So go check that out. So How do these things really help you in the classroom as a teacher? We've kind of talked about it a little bit, that most kids are going to learn the basics from you. They're not going to go online and get all this on their own. That they really do need someone that knows what they're doing, somebody that thought about a good lesson plan and gets them the basics and gets them started. But once you've taught your lesson in the classroom, you can give them some additional practice that they can either do at home or the classroom or the computer lab, and it helps to model them how they're going to lay out sentences, how they're going to do sounding out for spelling, how they're going to do their mathematics, how they might do some different science experiments and things like that. So it's a good way to give them some additional help that maybe not all the students are able to get in the school district. I know a lot of people have paras that bring them out for reading or math if they need a little additional help. But then there's those kids that maybe they need it today, but they don't need it all the time. This is a good way to do that. The other thing is retention. We have found is often tied to an emotion. That if you have a strong feeling or sense of something while you're learning, that you tend to retain it better than if you just kind of go through it with a kind of a lackluster feel. And I know there's some days that we all don't feel real wound up, and there's some days that when we give a lesson and we get the kids excited, you're going to find out they tend to remember those days better. So these games, because they make learning fun, kids tend to remember what the steps were, what the process is, how to critically think and solve problems that they don't have everything in front of them, that they have fun with it, and they tend to learn better. So how can we use these? Well, the first thing is you have to find games that match your objectives in your lesson plan. All right, so this is the hard part, but you have your kids, and they know the internet probably better than anybody, and so send them out to go and find these things out there for you, and then you can use them in the computer labs and maybe a multiplayer setup. You can use the single player at home and then bring their scores back and have a little healthy competition or not, and kind of see how kids are doing. And then the other thing is, for classroom, you can turn it from an online to a real kind of synchronous, in the class, where we go back to that same style of the game, but we use our whiteboard, we use pen and paper, we break people into groups, and we review, and we have kind of the old style. At least I used to love this as a kid, where we break up into 4 groups, and you'd have 4 teams or whatever, and they compete to see who can get the most answers. And by the time you got done, you knew your information really well. So it's a good review process. So most times these corporations and organizations, whoever happen to be, have done all the hard work for creating these applications. I'm not going to ask you guys to go in and create anything. I think we've done enough of that with some of our other applications and software, but it's already out there. So I was talking earlier, use your kids to find the learning opportunities for you. Send them home as kind of maybe like a scavenger hunt and see who can find a game or the most games that match the concept, that show that you can learn what you're talking about in class. And if they can do that, they're also showing that they understand the concept that you're trying to teach them, that you have reached them enough that they're thinking, all right, we're working on division and we're doing 2 number. Okay, so I need to find some kind of online application that is going to do that. And so they're really thinking about and grasping and getting into the lesson that you've done. So I think that's some good ways to get started. In this class for this week, we're going to let you guys do a little hook on your own, and unfortunately we're going to have to play some games this week. Sorry. Have a good one.